Most people walk into relationships with this quiet but persistent belief that sexual compatibility is either there or it isn't, that it's some kind of innate chemistry, this mystical alignment of bodies and desires that either clicks instantly or doesn't. And if it doesn't, they assume they've chosen the wrong person, that they're doomed to a life of frustration, resentment, or quiet longing. But let me be blunt, that belief is not only false, it's dangerous. Because it takes something deeply human, connection, and reduces it to a passive binary accident of luck. Sexual compatibility, like emotional maturity or intellectual connection, is not discovered, it's developed. And it's developed in the same way trust is, through vulnerability, patience, and the courage to communicate even when it's uncomfortable. It's not about just finding someone whose preferences align with yours like puzzle pieces. It's about growing into each other over time, shaping, adjusting, learning each other's emotional and physical language with curiosity rather than judgment. We often forget that sex doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the emotional atmosphere of the relationship. If there's shame in the air, if there's resentment, avoidance, or a fear of rejection, then, of course, compatibility feels like it's missing. You're not failing to connect physically, you're struggling to connect safely. There's a massive difference. True compatibility is not about mirroring each other's desires, it's about creating a space where both partners feel seen enough, safe enough, and secure enough to express those desires. To make requests, to say no, to be silent sometimes without fear, that is the soil in which desire grows. Not spontaneity, not wild passion, but a deep, consistent sense of emotional safety. Now here's where the philosophy kicks in. When we treat compatibility as fixed, we unconsciously remove responsibility from ourselves. We make it fate's fault. But the more honest question is, am I willing to understand this person deeply enough to build compatibility with them? That requires effort, not effort rooted in guilt or pressure, but in love, curiosity, and intentionality. It's the difference between consuming a person and cultivating a relationship. Between assuming we are owed pleasure and recognizing that intimacy is a mutual act of giving and receiving. And of course, compatibility isn't infinite. Sometimes people truly are mismatched in values or rhythms, and that can't be ignored. But most of the time, what we call incompatibility is just the absence of skill, safety, or honest conversation. And all three of those things can be built. It's time we stop waiting to feel compatible and start choosing to become compatible. Because that's the real foundation of mature, lasting intimacy, two people committed not to perfection, but to practice. If you want a connection that lasts, don't search for someone who completes you. Be someone who's willing to meet another human soul in the rawness of growth. That's not just compatibility, that's love evolving. We live in a culture that places an absurd amount of emphasis on sex as the defining marker of intimacy. Scroll through social media, watch any modern film, listen to the casual conversations people have about love. It's almost always framed through a lens of physical intensity. And yet, what so many people are starving for isn't more sex. It's more intimacy. Real intimacy, the kind that makes you feel held even when you're not being touched. Let's get clear, sex can be a powerful expression of connection, but it is not the foundation of intimacy, it is the byproduct. If the emotional core of a relationship is weak, if there's no trust, no vulnerability, no shared presence, then sex becomes little more than friction, pleasurable perhaps, but forgettable. Because what people long for, whether they can name it or not, is the kind of closeness that makes you feel known, deeply, frighteningly known, and that kind of intimacy is built in far more subtle ways than we're taught to recognize. It's built in the way someone listens to you when you're anxious, in how they touch your back when you're quiet, in the act of cooking a meal together without rushing. It's the eye contact that lingers. The silence that doesn't feel empty, the gentle, unspoken agreements that say, "You're safe here, you don't have to perform for me." Psychologically speaking, intimacy is rooted in emotional attunement, the ability to sense and respond to your partner's inner world. It's not about reading minds, it's about being present enough to notice the sigh, the hesitation, the tone shift, the fact that they said they're fine, but their body is telling you something else. This is where many couples begin to drift, not because love fades, but because they stop noticing. They stop risking vulnerability. They become functional, familiar. They confuse routine with safety and silence with peace. But intimacy dies in that kind of neglect. It needs intentionality to stay alive. It needs you to show up, emotionally naked, over and over again. And here's the philosophical edge to all of this. Intimacy demands that we surrender the illusion of control. You can't script it, you can't force it, you can only invite it, and that invitation requires you to be seen. No masks, no armor, just your honest, trembling self. This is why so many people find sex unfulfilling even when it's frequent. Because their bodies are engaged, but their souls are still in hiding, and no amount of technique or experimentation can substitute for the feeling of being truly met. So if you want better intimacy, don't just look to the bedroom. Look to the way you hold space for your partner's fears. Look at how you repair after conflict. Look at whether you still ask them about their dreams, or if you stopped thinking they had any. Real intimacy is the daily decision to reach beyond your own ego and touch the tender, unguarded humanity in another. And when you do that, when you prioritize connection over performance, you don't just make love. You become it. One of the most overlooked obstacles to deep intimacy and fulfilling sexual connection isn't dysfunction, it's misinformation. It's the quiet, persistent myths we inherit without questioning. Myths that shape our expectations, erode our patience, and turn natural relationship challenges into personal failures. We carry these ideas like invisible scripts, acting them out in silence, assuming their truth simply because they've gone unchallenged. And they quietly poison our capacity for connection. Take, for example, the myth that sex should always be spontaneous, that if you truly desire your partner, it should erupt naturally, without planning, without discussion, without effort. But this is a fantasy sold to us by media, not biology or psychology. In reality, most people, especially in long-term relationships, don't operate like that. Our lives are complex. We're tired, stressed, juggling responsibilities. Desire doesn't always appear like lightning in the dark. Sometimes it has to be invited. Created, chosen, and there is nothing less romantic about intention. In fact, choosing to make space for intimacy amidst the chaos of modern life is one of the most romantic acts we're capable of. Another myth we need to let go of is the idea that good sex doesn't require communication, that talking about it ruins the mood. On the contrary, the mood is ruined when people feel unsafe, unseen, or unsatisfied, and can't say anything about it. What actually kills intimacy isn't communication, it's silence. Silence breeds assumptions, and assumptions kill curiosity. You cannot grow or evolve sexually with someone if you're too afraid to ask questions, express desires, or name what isn't working. It's shocking how many couples, intelligent, committed people, will talk about everything in their lives except sex. They'll coordinate calendars, share finances, raise children together, but remain strangers in the realm of physical and emotional desire. Why? Because they've internalized the myth that if we have to talk about it, something's wrong. The truth is, if you're not talking about it, that is the problem. Then there's the myth that desire must always remain high, otherwise something is broken. But desire, like any emotional experience, fluctuates. It's seasonal. It responds to grief, to joy, to stress, to life. There will be periods where it burns hot and periods where it cools. That's not failure. That's humanity. What matters isn't constant intensity. It's consistent presence, a willingness to remain engaged even when the fire dims, because desire can be rekindled, but only if both people are still in the room. Philosophically, these myths reflect our culture's obsession with permanence and perfection. We want passion that never fades, communication without discomfort, sex that's always magical, but real relationships are not built in fantasy. They're built in the friction between two complex people who are willing to stay awake to each other, even when it's easier to sleepwalk through routine. So it's time to let go of the myths, not because they're silly, but because they're limiting. They keep you playing a role instead of living a relationship. They keep you expecting perfection instead of choosing practice. And when you trade illusion for truth, you stop chasing the ideal and start creating the real. There's one final idea we need to confront head on if we're going to have honest conversations about love, intimacy, and connection. And it's this, the belief that relationships should be easy when they're right. That if two people truly belong together, things should fall into place without resistance. No struggle, no conflict, no tension. But that belief is not just misleading, it's quietly destructive. Real relationships are not built on ease. They're built on resilience and nowhere is that more evident than in the way couples navigate conflict, misunderstanding, and emotional disconnection. We've talked about sexual compatibility, about intimacy beyond the physical, and the myths that distort our view of connection. But none of that matters if we don't understand how to repair what gets broken. Every relationship, no matter how deep the love, how aligned the values, will hit ruptures. There will be moments when one person feels unseen or misheard or even emotionally abandoned. That's not a sign of failure, that's a sign that two distinct people are trying to share the same emotional space. Friction is inevitable. The issue is not whether you break, it's how you rebuild, and that's where emotional maturity comes in. It's easy to show up when everything feels good, but what happens when the discomfort sets in? When your partner says something that wounds you, even unintentionally? When your desires misalign, when stress builds, when you feel miles apart emotionally? Do you shut down, lash out, withhold affection as punishment, or can you stay present enough to name what's happening without weaponizing it? Psychologically, the health of a relationship is defined less by how often couples argue and more by how quickly and effectively they repair. Repair means choosing to reconnect when it would be easier to retreat. It means being willing to say, I misunderstood you, let me try again, or even I hurt you and I need to own that. But this kind of repair only happens when two people agree consciously that they are not enemies in the relationship, that it's not me versus you, but us versus the problem. That shift changes everything. Because then conflict stops being a battleground and becomes a bridge, a chance to better understand each other's emotional landscapes. Philosophically, this is about embracing imperfection, about realizing that love isn't proven by how well two people fit together on their best days, but by how fiercely they stay when things feel uncertain. It's about rejecting the fantasy that love is a state of constant harmony and accepting the truth that love is an ongoing act of effort, grace, and repair. And here's the heart of it, enduring love is not an accident. It's a discipline, a daily practice of showing up, listening harder, softening faster, and choosing the relationship again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's messy, especially when it's inconvenient. Because the couples who last are not the ones who never struggle, they're the ones who learn how to struggle well. There's one more piece to this conversation, one that sits quietly beneath everything else we've talked about, and it's often ignored because it makes people uncomfortable. It's the role of the self in intimacy, not the relationship, not the partner, but you, your internal landscape, your emotional availability, your capacity to show up not just as a lover, but as a whole human being. Because let's be honest. Most people want connection, but few are prepared for what connection actually demands. It demands self-awareness, it demands emotional risk, it demands the willingness to look inward and ask, what am I bringing into this relationship that isn't about them at all? Your fears, your history, your insecurities, your patterns, These don't disappear the moment you find someone to love. In fact, love often amplifies them, because when someone gets close, they bump into everything you've hidden. And that's where real intimacy begins, not in the comfort, but in the confrontation. We talk so often about wanting someone who gets us, someone who understands our emotional wiring, but do we even understand it ourselves? Can you articulate your needs without guilt? Can you tolerate someone else's disappointment without collapsing? Can you be told that hurt me, and not make it about shame or failure, but about repair? That's what real emotional maturity looks like, and without it, even the most passionate connection begins to fracture under the weight of unmet needs and unspoken fears. This is where many relationships falter, not because the love isn't real, but because the self has never been fully developed. You can't merge with someone else in a healthy way if you've never become whole in yourself. Otherwise, you're not loving. They are just filling a gap, and that's not connection. That's dependency dressed up as romance. From a psychological perspective, this is the integration of self and relationship, not losing yourself in the partnership, but also not building such rigid walls that no one can get in. It's the dance between autonomy and attachment, between being with someone and still being you. Mature love doesn't erase individuality, it honors it. It says, I want to know who you are, not who you become for me. And that begins when you are willing to know yourself deeply enough that love doesn't feel like surrender, it feels like expansion. Philosophically, this is about rejecting the idea that another person will save you. They won't. They can support you, challenge you, reflect you. But the work of becoming emotionally whole is yours alone. And ironically, it's only when you stop needing someone to complete you that you're actually ready to be in a truly interdependent relationship. Not codependence, not isolation, but a space where two strong, sovereign people choose each other, freely, repeatedly, and with full awareness. So if you're seeking deeper connection, don't just ask what the relationship needs. Ask what you need to grow into, to bring more truth, more clarity, more strength into the space between you. Because the foundation of every lasting relationship is not just love, it's self-leadership. And when you finally commit to knowing yourself, loving becomes not just something you give, but something you are. There's one last insight, perhaps the most important of all, that threads through every conversation about intimacy, compatibility, conflict, and personal growth. And it's this: love is a skill. Not a feeling, not a fate, not something that just descends upon the lucky few. It's a discipline, a practice, something cultivated through effort and presence. And yet, many people approach love like it's either happening to them or it's not, like it's weather, rather than something they are responsible for tending. We expect love to be effortless when, in truth, nothing about it should be passive. Yes, desire can be instinctual and connection may spark naturally, but the maintenance of love, the way it deepens, expands, and becomes resilient, that part requires intention. It's no different than any other meaningful pursuit. If you want a strong body, you exercise. If you want knowledge, you study. And if you want lasting love, you must show up for it. Not once, not in the beginning, but again and again, long after the honeymoon energy fades. The problem is, we romanticize spontaneity and devalue effort, but think about what that actually means. We celebrate the moment two people meet, but not the years they spend learning each other's emotional rhythms. We glorify chemistry but ignore the patience it takes to move through misunderstandings without collapsing into defensiveness. We expect to know how to love without ever having learned how to communicate, how to listen, how to hold space when it's uncomfortable. And it's not our fault. Most of us were never taught. We inherited models of love that were often rooted in performance, power, or avoidance. We were rarely shown what real emotional literacy looks like. How to say what we feel without blame, how to hear what someone else feels without reacting, how to honor difference without demanding conformity. So we go into relationships ill-equipped, and when things get hard, we assume the love was never real, but more often, the love was simply unskilled. Asterisk psychologically, love as a skill means learning how to regulate your nervous system in conflict. It means understanding your attachment patterns. It means recognizing when your reactivity has more to do with your history than your partner. It means learning how to pause instead of react. None of this is natural. It's learned, it's practiced, and it's worth every ounce of effort. Philosophically, this reframes love from something you find to something you become capable of. You don't find is soulmate, so much as you become one. Through presence, through accountability, through doing the work even when it's tedious, even when it's not thrilling, that's where real intimacy is born, not in fantasy, but in the daily, often quiet choices that build trust, repair hurt, and make your partner feel emotionally safe. So if you want a relationship that lasts, don't ask if you're still in love. Ask if you're still willing to practice love, because it's in that practice, not the passion, not the storybook highs, but the simple act of showing up with care, that extraordinary relationships are created. And when love becomes a skill you choose to master, connection is no longer something you chase, it becomes something you embody.